How good was prime Rivaldo? He was often overlooked in his career, but in his prime, he was one of the most dangerous players the game had ever seen. But when you think about the peak Brazilian era of the late 90s and early 2000s, names like Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaka, Cafu and Roberto Carlos come to mind. But what if I told you that Rivaldo was so good that he was crowned the best player in the world and won the Ballon d'Or in 1999? From humble beginnings in the favelas to World Cup winner and everything else in between, this is the story of Rivaldo. Rivaldo's story is more than just a traditional Brazilian wonder kid's rise to the top. Rivaldo was born in Recife on the 19th of April 1972, and growing up was more than just a challenge, it was about surviving. His family was so poor that to survive, Rivaldo had to sell souvenirs on tourist beaches to help his family. The effects of the poor living conditions began to tell on him. He suffered from malnutrition, which meant losing some teeth and even becoming bow-legged. But despite these harsh living conditions, Rivaldo never gave in. His dad, Ronaldo, always told him and his siblings that one of them was going to become a pro and take the family out of poverty. Rivaldo was determined to make sure that person was going to be him. After he was done selling souvenirs to tourists, Rivaldo would stay on the beach to hone his skills, playing football with everyone and anyone. Pretty soon he became so good at it that he decided he wanted to go pro. At the age of 16, he got a shot at that dream whilst training with Palestino, but even with that, Rivaldo soon came to realise that his difficult past would once again make things hard for him. Because he was from the northern region of Brazil, people automatically assumed he wasn't going to make it. Add to this his very slim physique and bow legs, and to some it seemed like Rivaldo was only just wasting his time and needed a new hobby. But to Rivaldo, this was all he knew, so he put in the hard work and things began to look up for him. He continued to impress at Palestino up until the day he thought he was never going to play football again. His dad, Ronaldo, died in a tragic road accident, and for him and his family, it was understandably a terribly difficult time. Still, Rivaldo gathered the mental strength to carry on, and from that point onwards, he became a completely different animal. At the age of 19, he was playing for Santa Cruz in the top flight and finished his first season with 11 goals in 9 matches. After a loan spell at Mogi Corinthians was his next destination, and he impressed there so much that the reigning league champions Palmeiras decided to sign him. He had a series of notable performances for Palmeiras, such as the 5 goals in 8 Copa Libertadores matches. He was on the rise, and just before the 1996 Olympics, Rivaldo figured his time in his native Brazil was up, and he wanted a new challenge. Luckily for him, a European team was ready to take a chance on him. Deportivo La Coruña was the team that signed him, and in turn, he shone for them in La Liga. Rivaldo bagged 21 goals for Deportivo that season and helped them finish 4th. That looks even better when you see what the team did the season prior, where they finished 9th. What he had done for his new club was genius and deserved all the praise that came with it. But if anything, he only got half the praise, and that's because another Brazilian superstar was tearing up the league that season with 33 goals for Barcelona, Ronaldo Nazario. At the start of the next campaign, however, R9 was off to Inter Milan, and Barcelona needed a new star to at least attempt to fill Ronaldo's boots. In the end, they wanted someone with a degree of proven experience in the league. That didn't get any better than the hotshot who'd just come over and taken Deportivo to the dizzy heights of 4th. They made an offer, and weeks later, Rivaldo was at Barca. Now in Barcelona, Rivaldo was about to enter the best years of his career. He bagged 19 goals in his first season and helped Barca win La Liga and a Copa del Rey. He was determined to do more for his team, but his next task was representing his country in the biggest tournament in the world. At the World Cup in France 1998, Rivaldo played a starring role for Brazil. His best performance of the tournament came when he scored a brace against Denmark to take Brazil to the semi-finals. He played in every game of the tournament for Brazil, but ultimately his tournament ended at the final hurdle as France won the competition by beating Brazil 3-0 in the final. This defeat was a sore one for every Brazilian, but this only spurred Rivaldo on to hit new heights, and come the 98-99 season, he was unplayable. To say he was the best player in the world at this point would have been an understatement. Rivaldo was a class above the rest. He was a combination of everything. He had the speed and skill to easily get past opponents down the wings, was comfortable with either foot, and was producing steady numbers too. He finished with 23 goals and 14 assists in all competitions for Barca that season, just one off Raul for the Golden Boot award. In fact, by the time the summer came around, he'd recorded 45 goals and assists in 48 matches. At that point, Rivaldo was the leading candidate to win the Ballon d'Or award, but it was still a tight competition between him and Manchester United's David Beckham. Rivaldo, however, made sure those comparisons were put to bed at the Copa America 1999. He scored in the opening game in a 7-0 win against Venezuela. However, in the second game against Mexico, Rivaldo's tournament was on the ropes as he was sent off and missed the last group stage match against Chile. He arrived just back in time for the quarter-final clash against fierce rivals Argentina, and in a tightly contested game, Rivaldo's brilliance opened the scoring. He scored again in the semi-final against Mexico and in the final against Uruguay. In fact, he scored 2 and set up another to become directly involved in all 3 goals in the game. Brazil had won it, and Rivaldo's tally of 5 goal contributions in 5 games was enough to see him crowned as the best player in the world that year with the Ballon d'Or trophy. A fitting achievement indeed. After this though, what followed next for Rivaldo was a period of confusion. Barcelona had changed managers, and now Louis van Gaal was in the dugout. The new manager wanted Rivaldo to operate in a deeper role in midfield, away from his favoured position. Now, while this worked in the Champions League, with Rivaldo scoring 10 goals in 14 games, the system ultimately didn't work for him. However, the new manager wouldn't last in the Barcelona hot seat. With Louis van Gaal out the way, Rivaldo proceeded to have the best season of his career, even better than his Ballon d'Or winning one. The numbers don't lie. 36 goals and 10 assists in 53 games, 6 goals in 6 Champions League games, 33 goal contributions in 35 league matches. He was on sensational form, but on a collective level, there was nothing to show for it. Barcelona didn't win any trophies that campaign, and by the following season, Rivaldo's numbers had dropped. Still, his form and class were enough to get him into the World Cup squad of 2002, especially after an unforgettable performance and a hat-trick against Valencia on the final day of the season. With the game poised at 2-2 and Barca needing to win the game to get a Champions League spot, Rivaldo produced the magic. A spectacular overhead bicycle kick in the last minute of the game completed a glorious hat-trick and saved Barcelona's disappointing season. The 2002 World Cup was next, and in the competition, Rivaldo showed that though he was quiet in appearance, with a ball at his feet, he was capable of performing magic. He contributed a goal and an assist in the opening match against Turkey, but this master performance was overshadowed by an incident that left him with a bad reputation. His play acting to get his opponent sent off was caught on camera, and he was fined $4,500 as a result. It didn't stop him from having an amazing tournament though. He scored in every game leading up to the quarter-finals, 5 goals in 5 games. Rivaldo and Brazil eventually became champions of the world after beating Germany in the final. Now, 5 goals would generally be enough for any player to receive the Player of a Tournament award at a World Cup. But for Rivaldo, despite his quality at the competition, another Brazilian upstaged him. R9's 8 goals won him the Golden Boot, and with his double against the Germans in the final, the spotlight was firmly placed on him. Nevertheless, Rivaldo and his imperious link-up play with Ronaldo and a young Ronaldinho made the Brazilian attack out of this world. Together, the 3 Rs were unstoppable. After the World Cup, Rivaldo said goodbye to Barcelona and was ready to embrace a new challenge at AC Milan. He signed a 3-year contract with Milan, and while his time at the club might have looked successful on paper with winning the Champions League and the Copa America, Rivaldo's performances had dipped so much that he was voted as the Ballon d'Or winner, an award given to the most disappointing player of the season. After Milan, Rivaldo became a complete journeyman, and in the years that followed next, he played for the likes of Cruzeiro, Olympiacos, AEK Athens, Bunyodko, returned to Mogi and even had spells in faraway Angola. His career ultimately ended in Mogi after playing alongside his son Ronaldinho at the club. And there you have it, the story of a player who at his peak was the best in the world. However, because of the amount of star power in the national team and the era he was in, he was often overlooked. Rivaldo wasn't as flashy as other names, but on the ball, he was just as good and unquestionably a Barcelona and Brazilian legend. Where do you think Rivaldo ranks amongst the all-time greats? Was he as good as Ronaldo and Ronaldinho? Did he get the credit he deserved? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more football stories.